Good day. We're in the studio with Dr. Kunio Mitsuma. He is a mathematics professor here at Kutztown University. He is from Japan, and his road to Kutztown University has been quite a unique one. And he's going to share some stories about how that all came about and about why he thinks that perhaps some international students should consider, Kutztown University. So without further ado, Dr. Kunio Mitsuma, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here. Okay, tell us a little bit about your background, a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I was born and grew up in Tokyo, went to K through 12 system, and finished the 4-year university system there. And during my high school days, I had an opportunity to spend several weeks as an exchange student in this general area, Boyertown, Bartow, Pennsburg, and so forth. I always remembered how peaceful I felt because when you grow up in a big city like Tokyo, you really feel this urgency to do something with the time limit, this and that. And of course, there aren't too many, trees and then the cornfield, none of that in Tokyo. So I was always drawn to this area. And that's why I decided when I was 16, 17 to come here meaning a general idea of come to the United States, and then get a doctorate in mathematics. And that's what I did. But I moved around a lot, and I'm very glad that I have now settled here, and I would like to continue teaching, and then someday in my professional career here at the KU.
So tell us a little bit about your path to getting to KU. You originally went to some other schools first, correct?
In terms of studying mathematics towards PhD, upon graduating from a university in Tokyo, I had a choice to make between Penn State and then West Virginia University. And remember, I had done some. I had made some friends during my exchange student days, and some of them went to West Virginia, some of them went to Penn State. I visited both of them when I was myself in college in Tokyo, and I got to know mathematicians at those schools. And it was my decision to go to West Virginia to start in a very friendly, small environment. And that was really the best decision, even to this day, that I made in my career. So by the time I moved to Penn State for a doctorate, I was ready for the size of the university and the general living environment here, I guess. So after I left Penn State with a PhD, job market has been fairly tough in mathematics. So I moved around to places like North Carolina, Rhode Island, and then Lock Haven, and finally I ended up here. I always had Kutztown in mind because this is the closest campus to where I spent my, exchange student days.
Right.
And I still have old friends from those days. So this was my definite goal. So I'm so glad that I'm here. I've been here since 2003. So I'm really a happy camper that way.
That's wonderful. So what is it about Kutztown University do you think stands out to you, from a student perspective or from a faculty perspective? What makes us unique?
This is a student-oriented school.
Okay.
And when somebody would like to be taught in a personalized, attentive way, instead of in a huge university, just imagine taking a math class with 400 students packed in the forum. You're not even encouraged to ask questions. Compared to that, when I moved to Kutztown, I felt that this one-on-one experience of interacting with students, I find it really intriguing. And naturally, I have a Japanese background, and the interaction between teachers in general, especially professors at the college level, and the students, are not as active as here, in the sense that this sense of respect, I guess, for the authority as a professor, that may prevent more active interaction with professors, but here the size is nice. It's not 100,000 students, and people get to know each other. And especially when it comes to math majors, I really get to know them. And this close learning environment that I have myself lived with. Once you experience that, it's hard to do away.
It's hard to go back.
Right.
Yeah, Dr. Hilton was telling me here, our director of enrollment management, that the school that you graduated from in Tokyo graduates an extraordinary amount of people a year. It's so huge.
Yeah. Nihon University, sometimes it's called Nippon University.
Right.
Probably it is the largest school. The exact number of enrollment I am not aware of, but naturally, just like any bigger schools, it has College of, say, Science and Technology, College of Business, and so forth. Each college is the size of I would say regular universities, say. So it's a huge school. So just imagine coming from that background and then ending up in even West Virginia University was a big change for me, and it really became part of my life experience, after I moved here.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So, one thing that Kutztown University has been doing recently is trying to outreach more, not just to Pennsylvania students, but to out-of-state students and even international students. Mm-hmm. Why do you think a student in another country, namely in your case, Japan, would or should consider Kutztown University?
Because this is where people can find the kind of culture that's not often advertised or seen in Japan. Just look at, say, a print media or electronic media that refers to culture in the United States. They'll bring out city life, New York, and glittering life in the entertainment district area and so forth. A lot of people in Japan would look at those media information about the United States and form the idea that America from West Coast to East Coast is filled with scenes like this. But wait until you end up in the middle of Kutztown, not to mention Nebraska. And I would like, if someone, say, in high school or college in Japan, interested in studying overseas, and especially since English is taught mandatory from, I think, middle of elementary school years, I would like them to try living a different life in different culture. You can't do this when you're 50, for example.
Right.
And when you do that, I like them to consider there's nothing, I have nothing against New York or Los Angeles.
Yeah, I understand.
But especially if people are from already big cities like Osaka, Tokyo, and so forth, you gotta see the life in suburb or areas like Kutztown, because I live with 100 milk cows. Imagine that in Tokyo. You have a hard time parking a car.
Right.
So, and then look at this general wide scenery and the quiet, and then the people behave and then interact with you in a more relaxed way. Especially if you're from big cities in Tokyo, Japan, you would immediately notice this general calmness in life that going to college at KU would bring to you. So it's a nice sized school too. And many Japanese colleges are big.
Right.
So I think somebody, especially if someone has grown up in cities like Tokyo, I can almost feel that the moment such a person lands in here, he or she will get to like this general area.
So what sort of advice would you have for a student in Japan, considering studying abroad? Should they start their education over there and then transfer here, or how should they consider that? Put that all together, yeah.
Sure. No matter how you do it,
right,
you have to speak English.
Right.
And when I had an opportunity to speak to college freshmen and then so forth several years ago, the first thing that I said to them was, you know what? Believe it or not, if you go to the United States, people speak English. And
yeah.
But that's a general concern that college students there will have. So firm determination to study English language, most likely beyond whatever courses offered in the curriculum there. If you're already a college student, by going to, say, a language school and so forth, is warranted, in my opinion. Compared to my days, things may have changed in terms of bringing degrees from overseas universities back to Japan, because you have to worry about getting a job.
Right.
And getting a job, a college degree is important. So people thinking about studying the United States, they should consider what kind of job opportunities are available. If you decide to come back to your country with a degree from a university in the United States, but in particular major at Kutztown University. So if you're just coming out of high school, it's a major decision. If you decide to come here and then go straight to a degree here, you need to have a very in-depth conversation with your parents, for example,
sure,
to see what are you going to do. Are you going to return to, say, Japan and then get a job, or are you going to stay here? There are a lot of course, unknown factors until you start living here.
Right.
Generally, I would recommend either after high school, if you're really interested in the culture and the language, come here and then start the college life, and then see if you can continue towards and then finishing a degree program. Second option is what I did, finish all the way up to 4-year college. That's really, depending on areas, but is important because that's what people consider a complete sequence of academic years, isn't it? Starting
right.
with elementary school, first grade, and then finish college degree. So you have sense of accomplishment by the time you get a bachelor's degree program. And then come over here, and then the graduate school, and then learn and expand what you learned in Japan. But even so, just like with the high school case, you need to have an idea of what you're going to do
right.
after you leave, say, Kutztown. So planning is important, but first and foremost, the language is something that you need to take extremely seriously. So.
That's very good advice. Would you have any other advice for people considering Kutztown University from Pennsylvania or from Japan or from anywhere, from that matter?
Wow. See, I'm biased to some extent because,
right.
My high school days, a little bit of it
right.
spent here. But let's divide the United States into, say, 4 parts. Then,
sure.
Northeastern,
right.
and then the South, and then Western, and then so forth. You don't see many Japanese people in this area. that's something that I would like for, say, people thinking about coming over here to study to consider, because it just so happens, though, this is my observation, but people tend to congregate among their own nationality people. It defeats the purpose of being in the United States. So when I was a tour guide in Japan, I said the same thing to American students going over there to study. So this is isolated enough, not in the middle of, say, Los Angeles, where every 3 person you run into the street may be Japanese.
Right.
And I would really like them to take advantage of that. And then Kutztown's size is really nice to get to know people here.
Right.
And Japanese people are not too used to this smaller setup when it comes to education, and I think they will really appreciate studying at the KU.
That's wonderful advice. Thank you so much.
Well,
so anything else you'd like to get out there? Did I miss anything? I think I asked you all that I wanted to ask you.
I guess so.
Okay.
And if especially Japan, if somebody would like to get in touch with me.
Yes, please. How do we do that?
Yeah, I would really like to hear from those people in Japanese, in English, and email is good, but I'm extremely reachable. So people can, say, establish the first contact through email.
Okay.
KU email, or I can provide Apple email. Because I'm a big Apple fan.
That's okay.
But then from there, when it comes to more in-depth conversation or question and answer, I can make myself available via FaceTime or a Skype in any way. And I really, really like interacting with people of college age over in Japan. And you need to get to a one-on-one conversation, you see, when it comes to explaining more about what is so special about KU. Since it's so special, I'm here.
Obviously, right.
I like to share those things with the people. So definitely feel free to contact me through email. Probably that's the easiest to say. And then beyond that, depending on the mode of communication that those people would prefer, I'll try to accommodate that as much as possible.
Well, that's wonderful. Dr. Kunio Mitsuma, I want to thank you so much for talking to me today. That's been really wonderful.
Thanks for having me here
I've
today.
learned a lot, and I really appreciate it, and hopefully you've inspired some people.
Oh, I hope so. I really
All right.
hope so.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Welcome. You too.